What if I told you Coinbase might be secretly setting up to launch its own altcoin, built right on their Base 2 layer network? This could change the entire Ethereum ecosystem, and you might be early enough to catch it before the rest of the market even realizes what's happening. That's because you're in the right place here at the Crypto 101 podcast. So if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on weekly crypto alpha. Let's break down what this means, who stands to benefit, and why one of the biggest companies in crypto, Coinbase, could be launching their own altcoin. You know, there's buyers and there's builders, and a huge builder is Coinbase, and specifically Coinbase has a protocol called Base. We've had Jesse Pollock on the program before, who is the leader, I believe the lead engineer for Base, and we've always wondered, and we've talked on the show, you know, this Base is taking off. Is there going to be a coin? And at the time when we had Jesse on, maybe it's time to get him back on. I'll put that on my to-do list to reach out. But there wasn't a coin associated with Base. And so you try to find that, you know, the alpha around that protocol. And we've had Aerodrome on the podcast before, which was kind of a thought process of ours for one of the leading dexes of Base is Aerodrome. So we've had them on the podcast so you could learn that. But the breaking news this week coming from Base via Brian Armstrong and Jesse is that they're looking into maybe building a token here. Which, and I'm going to tee this up for you, Brendan, and let you break it down. But if they do launch a Base token, is it fair to say that this would be, quote unquote, the official altcoin of Coinbase?
I think it would be fair for that because it's a unique situation. Up until this point, Coinbase and Brian Armstrong have said we have no plans to develop a token at all. You know, not for Base, not for anything. We have no plans of a token. And then that shifted yesterday when we got this news of them announcing, both Coinbase, Base, and Brian Armstrong, all of them basically saying, we're looking into exploring a token for the Base network. And it doesn't come as too big of a surprise to me. I know that they kept saying, oh, we're not looking at this, we're not thinking about it. Well, clearly they are now, and I think that came with the gigantic success that Base has seen. I mean, I would say it is the most successful layer 2 on Ethereum. I know you can measure it by different metrics. You know, some people like to look at activity, some people like to look at TVL and all these other things. I would say Base is the most successful layer 2 on Ethereum, and it's also probably the most popular one. And when we're looking at it, it's hard to have that level of success and not start thinking about a token. So I think they're looking at it. They understand that they can capitalize on that. They can probably make more money from having a Base token. And maybe they're getting more fees or whatever it is. And I think it's the smart move. Now, up until this point, everyone looked at Aerodrome, which was the #1 application on Base, the #1 decentralized exchange, #1 in TVL on Base. And they said, this is the go-to way to get exposure to the Base ecosystem. That is Aerodrome. This changes that a little bit because now people are going to have a Base token that they can get exposure to. So we're not sure yet. We don't have full information out about this, about exactly how this token's going to work. Is it going to work similar to Maker, you know, where they have a token and a stablecoin? Is it just going to be a normal crypto? Is it just going to be a normal stablecoin? You know, we need to get clarification on a lot of those details, but it does throw a wrench into the whole process in a really good way, right? So there's a lot of positive things that are happening and going on here. But I mean, you have arguably the biggest exchange in the world, publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and they're coming out with a token for their layer 2, which is, in my opinion, the #1 layer 2 on Ethereum. It's a really big deal. I can tell you what, I'm going to be watching this. I'm going to be paying attention to this. I like having exposure to the Base ecosystem. I think Coinbase is going to be successful. I think the Base layer 2 is going to be successful. And as we'll see with some of these other articles, there's a lot that's being built on Base.
Yeah, and then Coinbase, we were talking about it, how I got access, but it was like a limited access to that. I don't even know what to call it, via Coinbase. They basically integrated
Aerodrome.
The Base, Aerodrome Base DEX into just normal Coinbase. It was a very small rollout. I don't think everybody had it, but because I was asking you guys and Brian, and yeah, it seemed like it was a limited rollout. But I think that's part of the thought process, right? Is, you know, obviously they're leveraging Aerodrome. They have a great relationship with them, but you know, kind of that test rollout was like, hey, you know, everybody just feels comfortable with Coinbase.com. Can we somehow leverage our own token or tokenomics to give people access to this entire, you know, altcoin sphere just to do more trading, to then get more fees, to then make more money, right? It's like, I think maybe, I don't know, I don't want to say they underestimated themselves with Base, but just like you said, the usage is through the roof. So you kind of got to step back and reassess the success of your project and see again how you can leverage it. As one of the leaders in the space and as a publicly traded company, the goal is to become bigger, become more profitable, but also deliver more to the users.